Hi there, this is Chris from MoneyHub, and this video looks at balance transfer credit cards. We're explaining the principles, but I'm not going to go over the current latest card offers because they change all the time. And we've linked to the guide down below, which can take you straight into the balance transfer offers currently available. We keep this guide, constantly up to date because we want to make sure people know their options when they're looking for a balance transfer for a credit card. So what I'm going to do is explain what a balance transfer a credit card is, then kind of 9 secret rules of using them, and then some best practice tips as well. First off the bat, we are aware that lots of people are looking for these, and this has been a situation on MoneyHub since really we started. And that's primarily because the interest rates are really high on credit cards throughout New Zealand. There's small kind of low interest credit cards for like 12, 13%. But a lot of people have these 20 and 25% interest rates credit cards, which really means if you can't pay off the balance, it's a big, big problem. So throughout MoneyHub, we always say the best credit card for many people is no credit card at all. And that's what we're really pushing, because we don't think that it's a great use of money to, have a $5,000 credit card limit and then use it up and then have to pay off the thing month after month, and minimum repayments are low, and it's just a whole bunch of hassle and a whole bunch of debt chain. So anyway, without further ado, what I'm going to do is just kind of explain the balance transfer concept. So what happens is that you'll see offers from a number of banks, and they will say, right, you can transfer your existing credit card money that you owe to our card, and then you'll pay either 0% or 2% or 5.95%, and that's for a fixed period. So sometimes it'll be 6 months, sometimes it'll be 12 months, sometimes it could even be 2 years. And basically what that means is that for the life of that 6 months or whatever the term is, then you'll just be charged the interest rate which you've agreed to. Once that period finishes, then you'll go to the standard rate that's charged by the card. So that could jump up to 12.95%. It could jump up higher. So that's why the best approach, if you apply for one of these cards, is to pay off the balance as soon as you can, or as much as you can, and then certainly you have to cut up the other card which you've transferred from. So many people get caught out because what they do is they take a balance transfer, and then suddenly it's like, oh wow, that $5,000's gone off my card, or that $10,000's gone off my card, and they start using it again, and then it builds up more and more and more. And this is such a disaster because you still owe the money which you've transferred, and now you also owe there's new balance which is sort of being incurred. So please, if you do this, chop up the card, get rid of it, cancel it, save the fees if you're paying fees on it, or annual fees. Just absolutely please get rid of it, because it's going to otherwise be a total trap. Now, what we've said here is that your interest rate, as I said, is going to be 0% or low for a set period, but you do need to use it properly to be able to pay off the debt. And what we've said here is that the trick is to find a card with a small transfer fee. Usually that's zero now, so no one's going to charge you, but sometimes they do, with a long, low interest rate period. So 0% for 6 months is obviously better than 1.99% for 6 months. But, the choice is going to be what you can apply for, what you're eligible for, and things like that. We like low interest rates for long periods. So 12 months is good, or, even 24 months, but you have to stick to the long-term period, of repayments. So you can't leave it. If it's a 12-month deal, please don't do anything please don't leave it until the last, 2 months before it goes back up to the normal interest rate, because you're going to get yourself into a really bad situation with that. So I know this sounds obvious, but many people, get caught out from it, and it's just not much fun at all. And so what we previously said here is, please, you have to get rid of your existing credit card or lower the limit and just use it for emergencies. And please don't please don't build up new credit card debt, because that's just going to be two things you have to repay, and it becomes costly. What credit cards can you actually transfer on? So the answer is actually quite a lot. You can go with Visa, MasterCard, Amex cards, Farmers cards, Gem Visa, the Q card, the Q MasterCard, all of that stuff, store cards. It really depends on the bank, but usually it's basically any card, then you will be able to transfer where there's a balance owing. But do check, what you can do before you make the application, because there's no point applying for a credit card, a balance transfer credit card, and then they won't actually accept with the balance transfer which you want to make. So just going forward, once you have your balance transfer credit cards, please repay the debt. That's what I previously said, and make sure you meet them like monthly minimum repayments, because that still needs to be done. And then try not to use the card for purchases, because it's just gonna, that's gonna be a problem. It's gonna kind of mix up what you're trying to do, i.e. pay off the debt, and then now you've got new stuff being added. So it's just a big problem. Slightly cynical of me to say this, but I think the banks and the people who offer these cards kind of know that hopefully the people take this, balance transfer and then kind of stay with them a long time, once the interest free period or the low interest free period expires, and then, they start earning high amounts of money on it. So just try and beat the banks there, and don't use the card, and just get set to repay it. And please don't withdraw money on them either, and because that's really, really important. The life of the balance is actually like a really good offer, I think, because what it means is that you'll be like, okay, well, you'll pay 5% for the life of the balance, which means you'll only pay 5% per year for as long as it takes you to pay it off. Now, that means that if it takes you 5 years or 10 years, which is a long time, you won't be paying that 20-25% sort of default rate, which it normally goes up to. You'll just be on the 5 or the 6%. And certainly that is something which is quite attractive if it's going to take you longer than, say, 6 months or 12 months or 2 years to pay off. We know that some of the balances being transferred are quite large. We get lots of emails from MoneyHub users, and we want people to just make really good decisions there. And if that's more suitable, paying 5.95% or 6% or whatever, then, trying to get 0% for 6 months and then going up to a 12-13% rate, then that makes sense for some people. So worth just considering that, knowing how long it's going to actually take you to pay it off. And then it's kind of sneaky, but if you do owe more money and suddenly, you haven't paid it off and it's gone up to a high rate, then you can also apply for a balance transfer credit card to transfer that over. Now, you may run out of banks after a while that will let you do that, because of course they like new customers. But just be aware that that's certainly an option. So if you go from a 0% and then you pay off some of it, and then it jumps up to say 15%, but then you see another 0% deal or a 2% deal, well, then you can certainly transfer that as well. And, no questions asked as long as you get accepted. So that's all good. And you can also apply, well, actually things have changed, and sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. We've said that you can't apply for a balance transfer with your existing bank to be safe, but, that's not always the case. We've just said that as a catch-all. So ask first, because while we've said that, some banks do offer it and some don't. So just be aware that it's a bit fluid, and we're not really sure, but we've said that just to protect ourselves, because we don't want people rejected. And then you can usually get a balance transfer for sort of 90-95%. So if you're trying to get a balance of $5,000, well, then you'll need to make sure that the card you're applying for actually lets you have that higher limit. So just be aware that some limits do vary and sort of between cards. And yeah, so that's what banks just want us to protect their own risk there, because it's unsecured debt, and they don't want people taking out, $10,000 of unsecured credit card sort of transfer and then vanishing, because that's obviously going to cost them $10,000. Now, finally here, if you've got a bad credit card, like a bad credit score or a troubled history, then the application process may be tricky because, of course, banks, as I previously said, don't want to take too much of a risk here. And so just be aware that you may be rejected. So yeah, you just have to do some applications and see what happens. But it is unfortunate that, they do like people with kind of sort of reasonable incomes and a sort of that can demonstrate reliability in repaying, because it is a huge risk for them just to take you on. And if you don't repay, then it's going to be problematic for them. So have a look at your history. We've also linked to the credit history and scores guide below, so you can see actually what's on your record before you make applications, if you want to just make sure there's nothing that you're not sure about on there. Now, if I just go straight through past all of these offers, and then if we just talk about the best practice, please try and repay as much as possible, and try and look for the longest interest-free or low interest period as possible as well. And please don't add new debt, because that's just going to pile up and it's going to kind of take your balance transfer process off road. So that's pretty much a summary there. If you do have any questions, or if you have any tips that you would like to share, please let us know in the comments below. We're very responsive to emails, and we're very responsive to user comments on YouTube, and we just want to make sure that our guides, our information is as comprehensive as possible. So we always learn things from people that share. So if you do have any questions, please don't hesitate, and we look forward to helping you with your information that you need.